Everyone, this is the school board meeting on Monday, March 12, 2018 at 7 p.m. for the Bloomington Public Schools. All members are present. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, upon conclusion of tonight's board meeting, there will be a study session to follow up on the joint meeting with the City Council. So we need a motion to establish the study session.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor of establishing a study session tonight after the meeting, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, and next, Jennifer McIntyre has been selected by the Minnesota administrators for special education as the 2018 new special education leader. So I have something to read first, and then we'll have Jennifer come up. So, the Minnesota Administrators for Special Education, MACE, has named Jennifer McIntyre Executive Director of Special Education as the recipient of the 2018 New Special Education Leader Award. She received the award for her commitment to students with disabilities and their families and her active involvement in professional and community affairs. MACE retiree Jan Ormosa wrote in her nomination letter, "She is an ethical and reflective leader who strives for the highest learning standards for all students while advocating for students with disabilities. Every single day with every student with a disability, Jennifer is passionate and committed." Ms. McIntyre implemented the needed systemic change to align with the Bloomington Public Schools' vision to create pathways to graduation for all learners to prepare them for the next level of study, to graduate and to enter college or a career with the necessary skills to be successful. This honor was awarded on March 9th as part of the May Spring Conference. Congratulations, Jennifer, on this well-deserved award. So, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Steigoff and Superintendent Fujitaki, members of the board. I appreciate this honor, and I was so very thankful last Friday when the MACE Selection Committee had presented this to me at the MACE Mesa conference. I really wanted to just take a really quick second to say a couple things about my department. I have a Special Education and Health Services department, and they're amazing people that I get to work with every single day. Just a couple of small facts about them. I have 218 licensed staff in my special education department, and I have about 40 health service staff that I work with, and I get to work with every single day. And I have about 190 paraprofessionals. And so it's super exciting to really think about all of them and the difference that they make for our students in both special education and general education, working with our teachers and administrators. I also wanted to just quickly say that with Superintendent Fujitaki and our cabinet have been very supportive of me. This is my third year here in Bloomington, and I have felt very comfortable here, very much a part of the team and very much of the problem solving for all of our students. And I often, I say all very strongly because our team really looks at all of our students. So I have a lot of pride working here in Bloomington and for this board and with our cabinet. So thank you, and thank you for this honor tonight, again, to look at my award and to look at our department as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you.
Does that mean you want this award back, or can I take it back?
Keep it walking.
So is there anyone who wishes to address the school board on an item that is not on the agenda? I guess since there's no one here, we would say
Tell them that.
no one in the audience for that. All right, and I don't think we have
Yeah.
any students here for government class, so moving on to Part A then. Is there a motion to approve Part A?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving Part A? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to Part B, which brings up Mr. Kubis with the Achievement and Integration Budget.
Madam
Chair.
Go ahead.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the 2018-2019 Achievement and Integration Budget for the 2018-19 school year in the amount of $2,104,208.06. In the event of a decrease or increase in funding from the Minnesota Department of Education, the contents of the plan and corresponding budget will be adjusted accordingly.
Second?
Madam Chair, Superintendent Fujitaki, rest of the school board. This is a yearly occurrence where I get to come up and look for your approval for the budget. I know you had it in your packet to go over earlier, and we talked about it during our study session. If you recall, last year, we put in our formal 3-year plan around achievement and integration. This is just the yearly stop where we get the budget approval from the board. So happy to be here tonight to do that.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to bid awards. East Side School Improvements.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Be it resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 accepts the following 17 bids for improvements for East schools, which include Kennedy High School, Oak Grove Middle School, Valley View Middle School, Oak Grove Elementary School, and Valley View Elementary School. Do you want me to read them all there, David, or?
You don't, you can say as written.
All right, as written in this resolution.
Second.
Chair Sygoff, Superintendent Fujitaki, board members. This is part of our annual all-facility projects. The board approved about a month or so ago the Ridgeview project. These are just additional projects that are scheduled for the east side of the district by recommendation of our architects and also our construction management. We broke it out into 2 separate bidding packages. And these are the results. Both the architects and the construction management company recommend these bids.
Questions?
Madam Chair and
Mr. Soren?
Director Siskowicz, these, I can recall we've seen listings of projects that are due, you know, when certain timing occurs and everything else like that in our schools for the alt facilities budget. But have some of these been hanging on for a while and then it just is a matter of timing to do something with them, or are they all just recently identified?
No, these are kind of both a combination of, with our alt facilities projects, we have a plan over the years of what we've been doing is doing a elementary school a year. Part of that, and then there have been other projects to just where we know it's going to be a longer time out before we get to them. We're taking care of those projects, but then also we'll combine other projects at a certain site to be done at the exact same time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor of approving this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next one, please. Someone like to read it?
This one, be resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 accepts the following 20 bids for improvements for West Side schools, which include Jefferson High School, Olson Middle School, and Westwood Elementary School. And then we have 20 contractors as written.
Second.
Again, this is the same process, just looking at the schools that are on the west side of the district.
Any questions on this one? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next we are going to have a school safety plan update by Mr. Kaufman.
Good evening, Chair Steigoff, Superintendent Fujitaki, members of the board. Happy to present to you year 4 of our school safety plan update. I'd be happy to take questions at the end, so I'll get through the slides, be a lot of it sort of low refresher, and then some of the things that we're currently working on. We're in year 4. We've completed a lot of work in years 1, 2, and 3. And it should, we always like the opportunity to thank our voters for supporting the technology and school safety and security referendum in 2013. Without that support, we would not be here today talking about some of these initiatives that have been in place in our schools that have created safer environments, more secure environments, and not scrambling like many school districts are in the wake of this latest incident in Florida. What we have in place, distill it down to things called the access management system, is an opportunity for us to funnel our visitors to a single point of entry. Typically, visitors pass through our office for identification and sign-in. In this case, the only entrance you have access to the school once the school day starts is to come through the main office. You're identified by a person in the office. We're sharing, our protocol is there is a live body in that office at all times, and that you're identifying the individual, and if they have a reason or a purpose to be in the school, they're signed in and they are given a visitor badge to until they leave, and then they expected to report or return that badge with them. This controlling of access is really proactive. It is with greater certainty, and it is the first line of defense for our students and staff from a secure standpoint. This is what it looked like before in many of our schools. Visitors could easily bypass the office, even though we had signs on the main entrance that invited visitors to sign in the office. But passive supervision of visitors is pretty difficult to manage. It was not unusual to have an office secretary or someone in the office to go chase down someone when they did not check into the office. This drawing is kind of a rough drawing of what that looked like. We move then to the single point of entry that allows us to lock all doors except the main entrance, thereby funneling individuals into the school office. So access to classrooms is locked once that school begins, and visitors are forced to enter through the school office, as I mentioned, to get signed in. We also don't allow persons that don't have a business to be in the school. For example, if parents are dropping something off. In the old days, a few years ago, we would allow parents to go in, drop off something in their child's backpack, or their lunch, or their book. Now we just have it left in the office, and either the child comes and picks it up, or we have someone take it to the classroom to the child specifically. With respect to emergency preparedness, I should mention that when we developed the school safety and security plan, which was done in 2011, 2012, as you recall, with lots of conversations within our community of parents, staff members, and students at the secondary level, that data, that collective values that parents and our community shared with us is what went into the development of the school safety and security plan. From that, there were 3 critical elements. First and foremost was the intervention, prevention, mitigation programs that we have in place to address antisocial behaviors, as well as support the pro-social, positive behaviors that creates the culture within our schools. That's the tremendous value for our schools to create an environment that's not only welcoming, but also one that is safe and secure for schools. All kinds of research and studies show when you have a facility of that nature, students tend to do far better. And problems, issues that are dealt with in a very quick fashion or a very efficient manner reduces the likelihood of students, quote unquote, falling through the cracks. The second component of that are what we call target hardening, or physical structure changes that limit access to schools in a variety of manners, and then other systems in place that limit access to classroom wings. Those barriers, if you will, that are created are intended to buy time for law enforcement to respond to a school in the event of an unfortunate incident. It also allows us to isolate individuals in areas where we can keep them until such time as law enforcement arrives or we can diffuse the situation. And then the third component of all that is the human factor, which goes to training and drills of our staff, not only that's aligned with state requirements, but also to take a step further to do what we call mental simulation. We are trying to train the brain to react, to respond in a real-world situation. In other words, create the cultural condition to know what to do. Done a lot of research over the last few years about how the brain responds to these high fear, high anxiety, high stress situations, and how we want students, and for that matter, staff, to respond and react. So in years 1 through 3, part of our emergency preparedness was the creation of universal emergency procedures. It is very important that we have consistency across all school sites for itinerant staff or administration traveling among buildings to know that if there's a situation at school A and or school B, regardless of the time of the day, that you're responding to what we call school-safe conditions. We've also, again, aligned with brain research, limit that information to very simple words like lockdown, evacuation, shelter in place, or severe weather. That's pretty self-explanatory. We moved away from code words, code colors. We moved away from placards to slide under doors, because all that did was to confuse and create issues among what is a code red, difference between a code yellow. When the brain can identify a specific directive, lockdown or evacuation, we are better serving our students and staff to respond in a more efficient, effective manner. We also added a number of physical structure changes, things like emergency alarm systems, classrooms all having door locks district-wide that does not, or prevents staff from taking the time, frankly, to find keys to lock their doors. We have keyless entry upgrades to our schools, again, making sure that all accesses are locked. Proximity cards, proximity readers at certain doors where staff are coming in and out, such as a staff entrance or the playground or the athletic office, athletic fields, allows staff to go in and out and not to be too inconvenienced. All of these measures have created some inconvenience among staff and among parents. And over time, sometimes we let our guard down. And it is important that we continually reinforce with our staff and our community why these measures are in place, and that it is going to create some inconvenience, but it's for the safety and security of our kids. This is what the safe school conditions look like. This placard, if you will, has been given to every employee that has gone through a training, including all new employees and substitutes and long-call subs. We've also asked from teachers to post this in their classroom as a quick refresher. Keep this on them, and pretty handy in terms of understanding what to do in the event of a situation. This version is version 2.0, and we will be moving to version 3.0 this fall, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. All right, moving on to years 4 and 5. We're now in year 4. We're in the process of piloting new high-resolution camera systems with improved facial recognition. It's a security camera upgrade. Most of our cameras are not high definition, so the resolution in terms of identifying individuals, very difficult. With that goal being higher resolution, we're also looking at to reduce the hard disk space that is used, which is where a lot of the cost of these go into. The plan is to replace middle school and high school cameras by summer, and then repurpose what we can of those secondary schools to our elementary schools. We expect high school cameras to begin replacement here shortly. I should note that security cameras serve as a minor deterrent, but a major part of investigatory practices when you have an incident or if you have something that you need to follow up on. We, as part of our comprehensive approach to school safety, we still strongly encourage, and we expect that staff are in the hallway during passing periods before and after school to help augment those security cameras in reducing any types of misbehavior. We're also in the process of reviewing our two-way radio systems. We are at end of life for many of our two-way radio systems that have been around for 15, 20 years. We are sorely in need of a universal communication program that allows us to communicate to all of our facilities across the district. And so we have been reviewing that. The operations department has been reviewing that. We are working with Bearcom, an industry leader in this area. They are facilitating or will begin to facilitate conversations with principal groups by level as part of a plan to not only upgrade, but to expand two-way radios in our schools with a target date, again, of spring and summer for this work, and likely next fall or early winter for the two-way radios to come into existence. And part of that will be, because of the significant improvement of those two-way radios, will be a lot of training for individuals and use of those two-way radios. They're very different than what we have today. We are currently reviewing a number of initiatives, and we do this annually. Rod Zivkovich, Tim Reebok, myself, and Michael Oxborough at times, but normally every year we review the school safety security plan, what's in place, where are we going, and do we need to shift some things based on cost projections, as well as timing. Whenever you have a school mass casualty incident like we saw nearly a month ago, causes all school districts to really look at what they're doing and what they can do to improve their safety and security. Our review is pretty much ongoing, but within that context, sometimes we have to shift our focus in that review based on what we're learning from these kinds of incidents. And also, again, because we've heard from a fair number of parents and community members, you also need to, in the review process, assess, that's the community value that's being expressed to you. Do we make changes to our plan? It is a fluid plan that addresses some of those concerns. The first one is up on the screen. The after-school security for Kids Safari, really, it's our before and after-school programs, primarily at the elementary school, that does cause us some concern. I think oftentimes parents and community members will experience these through the media and through conversation, these national events, and they're really unaware about our safety and security measures in place. The other thing with that is that new parents aren't exposed to that. So when things happen and then you look at your school and you don't have that same structure in place after school or even before school, that's where we've been getting some parent comments. But we're reviewing our before and after school coverage, and it may require some additional increase in costs for persons that are using this program, and or if their dollars become available through the various different legislative bills that have been introduced in the House and the Senate and also by the governor. I expect to have a recommendation to present to Superintendent Fujitaki on that after-school security here within the next week. The visitor management system is a computerized system to screen and authenticate visitors. We have already reviewed this. This is one of those projects that we've shelved for the last 2 years, primarily because in Minnesota, to ask a person for an identification to authenticate, in other words, you're scanning that, and it goes against a database to ensure they're your parents, they're not non-custodial parents, or they're part of the any state or national predatory offender or sex offender databases. But in Minnesota, it requires you to inform the individual that that's considered a background check. And unlike many other states, we, in our vetting of the various different firms that provide visitor management systems, we've been working that issue through the process, and we've been able to resolve that through some of those companies. We have yet to determine the company we will go with, one, and two, when we put that back in the pipeline, whether it's this fall or sometime in 2019. Okay. Two other things that really, this is as a result of the Florida mass casualty incident, personal panic alarm devices and anonymous tip reporting. We certainly strongly encourage students and parents, when they see something, to say something. Often after these kinds of incidents, we'll reinforce that. This is the number one way to avert any kind of mass casualty incident, when persons see something and they come forward and say something. Unfortunately, as we saw with the Florida incident, at least by current reports, that see something, say something kind of fell by the wayside. And so what we're looking at in terms of these anonymous tip reporting is a more formal process for students and or parents to report when and or if they hear something, see something, or are concerned about a student or any kind of a potential, that would be a potential threat. Personal panic alarm devices, if you've ever been in a hospital recently, you know that many of our healthcare providers, the nurses on stations wear these. It's like your visitor badge, and you can press a button, and it brings personnel to that room for a variety of situations. This is one of those things that has become commonplace in hospitals, less so in school districts. And sometimes it's difficult to get staff to wear a visitor badge or their own badge, let alone a personal panic alarm devices. I'm always real concerned about spending a lot of money in some device that may not necessarily be used. However, there are cloud-based or app-based programs or systems that would have a personal panic alarm device within it that we are reviewing that is, it's sort of a one-stop for multiple things like anonymous tip reporting and others, not just individual devices too. Positive alarm sequence, this is something we also have looked at. This is also, we currently have this in place, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this is one of those, we want to protect the integrity of some of the alarm systems we have in place, but this would allow us to investigate and confirm when a fire alarm is pulled, whether in fact there is an emergency that would require evacuation. Again, in other states, this has become fairly common. It's called a delayed response that allows, reduces disruption that occurs in evacuation, and also allows students and staff to move to what they call a safe zone if the location of where the alarm has been pulled, such as either triggered by smoke or fire, they don't go into harm's way, less so having to evacuate the building. And last, I talked about briefly school-safe conditions. What we know is that with flex space in our schools becoming very different in terms of how classrooms are set up or how study, we will have some what we call unsecured locations. That doesn't mean that if you were to consider the flex space at Jefferson High School in Flag Hall, there it is still secure because you have the main entry, those doors are locked. Very secure, but in the event there's an incident that occurs from within, students that might be in an unsecured location in those flex areas or in the bathroom, in the cafeteria, we are saying if you can't get to a secure location, in other words, you can't get into a classroom in seconds and behind that locked door to evacuate the building. This is something that we will be deploying this fall. Actually in August, we expect to train all staff on this revised school safe condition. It is somewhat aligned with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Department of Education's run, hide, fight model of school response, safe conditions. As I said, operations, finance, business services, and our office annually reviews safety security projects, including assessment for upgrades of current systems. All current and future projects are subject to change based on funding and scheduling. With respect to emergency response training, all sites continue to conduct those 5-5-1 drills. That's 5 fire or evacuation, 5 lockdown, and 1 severe weather drills required by the state. In the last 2 years, this is the second year, we are requiring all schools to do what we call a minimum of 2 enhanced drills. These could be a combination of a lockdown to shelter in place to lockdown, could be unannounced, could be done at inopportune times like passing period or students in a cafeteria, all designed to create that mental simulation, to create the cultural condition to know what to do in a real world situation. Our police and fire department partners continue to participate and collaborate with us. The beauty of these enhanced drills, normally when we do a lockdown drill or a fire drill, we have staff that will walk the halls and check doors or make sure hallways are clear. In those lockdown drills with police and fire partners participating in those enhanced drills, they actually do that work, and it's typically the work that they would do as part of that response, and so we don't have staff doing that. Staff would stay in the location where you would in a real situation. So they've been, and you heard that at the joint city council school board meeting, they've been an invaluable resource. We've also moved more away from coaching and more observing. Paul McCullough, who is a retired Bloomington police officer, 30-some years, former school resource officer, continues to work with us and our schools to help coach them, as well as now do more observing of school leaders so that principals and other leaders know what decisions they make. Also part of that is under our incident command system training, all of our leaders have a backup. So in some cases, even though the leader may be there during a drill, we expect that their backup to assume command in those situations, and that's through, again, the work that Paul McCullough has been providing for us. And we learn that through a debrief after each one of those. We also started last year, and we continue to train our youth family coordinators, those after-school, before and after-school safety folks. And as I said, all staff refresher will be done in August of 2018 to include expanded incident command training of all members of our building and our district emergency response teams. Lastly, I have to sort of a disclaimer. We cannot effectively predict where school violence might happen next. Being proactive, being prepared now is proactive. There's no simple solution to school safety, and no measure in use today is fail-safe. No matter what company is trying to sell you, there is no system, no product in place that is 100% fail-safe. And in some cases, those products may either violate state statute or violate the international codes from fire marshals. Bad stuff happens. It's unfortunate, but being prepared is the most important thing we can do, mission critical. And those include promoting the positive school climate and cultures, teaching and modeling pro-social behaviors, intervention when antisocial behaviors occur, and those physical environment standards that we've employed here, crime prevention through environmental design. We are committed to improving and strengthening all aspects of school crisis prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Wow, just to get it on, it's too bad we didn't have a big audience, but our television audience is going to respond positively. I know Rick has been out and has spoken to some groups in the community about this, and we've had some discussions at our church about how safe our schools, and it's surprising how many people still aren't aware that we have all these safe and secure buildings. And so when they ask me a question, I just kind of say, yeah, we're safe and secure. I certainly can't list all of these things, but maybe I'll make a PowerPoint and bring it, keep it in my pocket so we can. But it's just, as I mentioned before, it's just amazing and wonderful that we have had this in place now for as long as we have, and we keep improving on it. And I know we're a model for an awful lot of districts around the country who've heard about it or seen about this. And so I just want to thank you for all of this information that we have. It's good stuff. I know bad stuff happens, but this is good stuff.
Anybody
Madam Chair?
else? Sir.
Well, first, thanks for coming, Rick. I appreciate the energy and the effort that you and your team have put into this, and you continue to put into it. I specifically appreciate the caveat at the very end that says we can't effectively predict where school violence might happen. You know, we can just keep building stronger and stronger doors, but someone will find a way around them. One question I do have, and I'm just curious because I've heard it mentioned, and you mentioned it earlier, the run, hide, fight. What does that look like? How does that work? How is it supposed to work?
Run, hide, fight is nothing more than evacuate, lock down, and as a last resort, fight. Part of our training with all staff as we move to that version 3.0 will be the encouragement that staff consider creative ways to respond to certain situations. If you're caught in a situation in an unsecure location and you can't get out of a building, and your only means to protect yourself and others may be to fight back or throw something or try to disengage the intruder or individual, by all means try and do that. There's a belief that comes naturally to people, that it's in their DNA, and it isn't. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of mental fortitude in order to do that, and you have to be exposed to that over time to be able to respond in such ways. However, there are some people, including some students, that can do that. For us, and we base this on strong recommendation by the National Association of School Psychologists and the National Association of School Resource Officers that lockdowns are still the most effective form to protect our students and our staff in the event of an incident that occurs inside a school or outside a school. Evacuation is, when you are in an insecure location, is certainly something to consider and to actually do, but we have chosen not to evacuate first. And there's lots of conversations in the emergency management world about getting out of the building. But when you have 90% of your students and staff in a classroom, in a secure location, unless that door is open, it doesn't make sense to run out into harm's way when you don't know where that harm is occurring. All you have to rely on is auditory. You're listening and hearing some things. So again, it is best practice, and when we can continue to reinforce its best practice, that's what's important. And a little bit frustrating when people call into question that they want people to run and they want people to get out of the building. But our schools are secure, our doors are secure, and we have strategies that we train our staff, and even though the door is locked, what else to do to create additional barriers.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do.
Ms. Gorman, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this update. It's very important to know where we're at and to see the amazing work that we've been doing in the district, in your hands and the hands of your people that work with you. So thanks for doing that. So my question, and you don't have to give me details. I don't want you to give me details, but do you or does anybody walk around the schools taking a close look at the classrooms and how they are designed, and kind of looking into what possible places would be the best within a classroom for the students to go, the way a window is positioned, or, things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so because schools are very different, and each school, there's no two schools alike, even in Bloomington. So again, what we're trying to do is make sure that the persons are responding very efficiently and in a manner that's going to get them to a location that's the safest place. So once their doors closed, if it's open, or they've sort of removed the magnet, if you will, to make sure that door is locked, close the blinds and get into a corner, get into a safe location and get hunkered down. We've encouraged, and I won't, as you said, I won't get into great detail, but we've encouraged staff to add other elements to create barriers to that doorway. Sadly and unfortunately, in the Florida incident, at least a teacher and one student was killed, and others were wounded because they were holding the door shut. You don't want to be behind the door. We don't have bulletproof doors in our schools, and not many, if any at all, schools have them. So get to that safe location and then stay there. And we strongly encourage students to turn their cell phones off, because it is a security risk. It is we want staff to keep their phones on because we can communicate to them that way, not necessarily over the PA system, but for students, it's really important that they turn those off for safety reasons. And to directly answer your question, yes, we did a safety audit in every one of our facilities. In that safety audit or security assessment, we spent significant amount of time going through all of our schools, internally and externally, and looking for what we call vulnerabilities. And those vulnerabilities were addressed in the safety plan and those other measures that we have in place.
Because, as a teacher, when I'm in the classroom, sometimes I look around and I think, oh my gosh, I wish that window was not there.
But you bring up a great point, Director Corman, in that as a teacher, as a staff member in a school, one of the things I hope our staff does do is to look at their classroom, and in the event of a situation that we've seen, where will I go? And part of that is to practice that when we do those drills. That's obviously the reason for that, and how you're instructing your students to really be quiet and get behind some barriers.
Right.
Right, other questions?
I see the expression hot wash. We use hot wash to assess to improve responsiveness. What does hot wash mean?
Hot wash is just a fancy word that's to debrief. When I was a paramedic, in training, we would debrief after every incident, and it was, we call it a hot wash, to assess what did we learn, what were our greatest challenges, what would we do differently. So all of our teams, when they have a drill, even if we have an incident, we expect them to do a hot wash with their response team about what we learned, what would we do differently, and what were our challenges. And we do that, the administrative team does that when Oak Grove Middle School has an incident. We will debrief with them or hot wash.
And also, I just want to thank you for being such a great asset to our district.
Thank you.
And I don't know how we got you, but I'm very thankful, and I've tried to reassure people in the community that we are in good hands.
Thank you. I owe it all to Mr. Fujitaki.
Hey.
Mr. Bennett?
Someday we'll hear that story.
Yeah, I got a couple questions for you. So the sign up, when visitors come in to sign in, are they all electronic now, or there's still some schools that are still doing signing in a book? type thing?
Some are signing in a book. Those kiosks with the computers really, they can track the person that's coming in by them signing in, and they get the visitor badge. It's really how the visitor management systems work. You can download your parent list per school, and so a parent comes in that's a volunteer or has a purpose there. They sign in, the badge is printed, and it's been pre-screened, if you will, so it doesn't delay that. But others that they have to sign in, those that are that manual sign in, we still ask, what's your business, who are you here to see, and things of that nature.
I was wondering, is that something that we're going to be upgrading
Yes.
eventually?
That's
Okay.
that visitor management system that, again, once we land on it, then it's going to be consistent across the district.
Okay, so we're waiting to see where we're going to go with the whole visitor access system before we
Correct.
upgrade and have to replace. And then, so once we get that visitor access, where they're doing the background check type thing, how long is that process? If I were, say, to go to my school to pick them up, my kids up or something, and how long would it take?
It's, the systems that we've reviewed are seconds.
Okay, so you like give your driver's license to the secretary or
That's
something?
the
and
Yeah,
then-
driver's license or some form of identification, and it's scanned and immediately pings. It doesn't do anything if there's no
Yeah.
concern. If it pings, then part of our training will be how do we respond to that.
Or if I've already been there several times and I'm known it shouldn't take
Yeah,
time at all?
you as a parent, your children's school, you'll be in that database, and
Okay. Okay. Another question I had was you were talking about the cameras being replaced in the high school. Were those cameras that you're replacing, were they recently installed as part of this whole? No. Okay, these are old cameras.
These are old
Okay, I
cameras,
know
or
these are
schools.
brand new and we're already replacing them.
Yeah, some of our schools actually have purchased a couple high-definition cameras over the last couple of years. Those will not go away. Those will stay. We, working with Tim Reebok and Rod in operations, we've identified a standard for each school, knowing again that each school has a unique layout, but a standard of where certain cameras will be, and they will be augmented then by schools that purchase additional cameras.
Okay, I was just kind of, questioning, did we just buy these cameras as part of the referendum? Now we're already replacing them? Okay.
No,
So that's
they
reassuring.
will be part of the
Okay.
referendum. It is important to note, too, though, that the high schools, we currently have the vestibule security paras that are actually reviewing cameras the entire day, multi-screen.
Oh, nice.
The middle school and high schools, they use them more for investigations, and they're logged, and they can go back and look. But on a daily basis, our security paras at the two high schools are monitoring those constantly.
Okay. And then the last thing I was wondering about is I read in the paper about the governor's proposal to have more funds available for school safety, and I'm reading, some things that he's outlined. It's like, well, we already have all these things, so,
Well-
and I don't know if you're familiar with them, I'm sure you are, what would be beneficial to Bloomington that he was talking about?
Well, one of the pieces of legislation, actually, a couple of pieces of legislation would provide additional resources for mental health. I believe our schools are, and I speak generally, our schools are sorely needing help in the mental health area. We have far too many children being served by a limited number of staff in the mental health area. Part of that, though, goes along with having a consistent and thorough threat assessment or student assessment process to identify students most at risk. And I think one or two of the legislative bills talks about more and improved communications and collaboration with police to respond to those high at-risk situations where you have deep concerns about the potential threat and the potential harm that individual student may have to him or herself or others around them.
And then one other thing that I saw in there was, here's about bulletproof glass. Do we have any bulletproof glass? What kind of glass do we have?
At the integrity of our security systems, I'm not going to respond to that
Okay,
in public, but I will offline.
Okay, sorry, yeah, okay,
There's no such thing as bulletproof glass, I will say that.
okay.
And that's good, because that's come up in some discussions we've had out in the public. One of the other concerns, are these cameras, are any of them mounted at the outside of the schools?
We have cameras that are internal and external.
And that's enough said about that.
He's not going to tell you exactly.
No,
where they are.
we're all on them. But anyhow, then the other thing was that some of the citizens are concerned about is the before, where the students come, and then the students leaving school. Is that a vulnerable situation, and how do we address those types of
Part of that review we're doing, you might recall that when the plan was approved, we did have a separate before and after school safety task force that reviewed those pieces and came up with recommendations. All of those recommendations have a significant cost to them. And so we're looking at if to implement them, what resources are there, and/or a combination of available resources. You talk about legislative funds would help to provide that kind of personnel, and/or unfortunately, you have to consider increasing costs of program users for that. And I just want to clarify, there's bulletproof glass, but it costs money more than schools can afford.
It's about that thick.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you for your work on this. I just wanted to add quickly, Mr. Kaufman thanked our Bloomington public for supporting the referendum for this, but also the school board that was here before some of us that went out for the referendum, and the administration taking the leadership and saying to the community, we need to do this because we need to make our schools safe. So thank you to everybody that was part of that. Okay, moving on to board member reports. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first, because I know Dick and I had shared some events, and so I will leave most of the details to Dick. But I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, of course, that our middle schools are just doing a tremendous job with their musicals, their concerts, and whatever they have. Madagascar was a huge success over here, and Olson had Legally Blonde, which was another exciting opportunity for kids to participate in, and coming up to the Valley View Mulan, that's coming up in first part of April. But when you're there and you see the number of kids participating, it's just a positive, encouraging sign that a lot of these kids, that's what they found their niche, and so they'll be able to continue that when they get into high school, theater, and doing some of the other activities that they want. But it's really exciting to see the enthusiasm that they generate when they're performing. I also want to mention that the Nobel students at Valley View Middle School participated in a drama chorus on an art form that's evolved over many years. And so there's this huge group up on stage, and they synchronize their wording and everything else. So when they did a poem like Casey at the Bat, if anybody remembers that from their childhood, each of the kids had a different line that they would say, and they even had Casey standing at the plate. But as they did this, it was just so well synchronized as they read the poem in different accents and in different styles to be able to put it on. And that's just another one of the things, that there were different kids that participated in the musical, and so they're able to participate this way. And just watching the kids as they were, Dawn was there too, and we were just kind of in the back with our mouths open at how well the choreography and the drama reading was just a great success. So that's my report, even though I don't have any formal committee reports. I just wanted to let everybody know about all the exciting things that our middle school students are doing.
Madam Chair? All right, so I was fortunate to go along with Jim Sorum. I think we sort of we were bookends for the STARS Award over at Valley View Middle. This is a award, this is the second year the award was given. It was a lot of fun. It's community ed folks who are recognized by their peers, and they're given an award. The STAR is actually an acronym. It stands for Staff That Are Remarkable Awards. Okay, and I was asking Tamara, and she said she'd get it to me, and Jim actually had it. So it's a lot of fun to get up and see these people. And afterwards, when the folks were walking out, I was just standing and saying thank you and shaking hands. And one of the teachers came up, and I had actually both of our sons had this teacher for their preschool teacher. So this teacher has been in the district at least for 12 years. So we had her 12 years ago and 10 years ago, and it was just it's really, really fun to see that they stay, that they're engaged, that they like what they're doing. And then, of course, these STARS Awards do acknowledge the fact that they're doing a great job. Also, 917 board met last week. Among other things, we got down to 5 candidates for the position of the superintendent. I think there was initially 11. The 5 should have been in the board minutes, so if anyone's interested, they'll come across, and those names are public now. I don't have them, but anyone can look them up. 5 good candidates, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us to pick from those 5 somebody that can fill John Christensen's shoes when he retires here in June. Also was right in this room, let's see, what is today, Monday? Last Wednesday for the PTSA council meeting. That's their monthly meeting where all of the PTA reps from all the 15 different schools get together, and then they sort of discuss, have an opportunity to discuss individually what's going on in their schools. There's a presentation, usually by one of the cabinet members. Eric Melby, Assistant Superintendent, was filling in for Les Fujitaki, and I don't know how he got it, Les, but he has a picture of you on a little piece of cardboard, so he did a good job of filling in.
That's on a
I
stick?
think that was payback for
Yes.
before when you did it.
One of the items that they did bring up was the district food drive. This is the 10th annual district food drive for Veep. It'll run from April 23rd to the 27th. And then those of you that are watching at home, you can look into your child's schools, and there's a business partner that all of our schools have, so there'll be big boxes. You can donate food, you can donate money. There's a list sort of top 10 things that Veep really, really wants, peanut butter, this kind of thing. And you can just check with your school. You'll see what's on the list there. And we're hoping to top our totals from the last year. I think last year, 2 years ago, we did something like 65,000 pounds, or a total of 65,000 pounds, which would keep those the food shelf stocked for a week. So 65,000 pounds will last a week. So just think of that next time, maybe when you're shopping, if there's something you can put an extra 2 cans in, put that, bring that with your maybe if you're dropping something off at your child's school, put it in the box. And again, it's April 23rd to the 27th. So I'll stop there. I could go on and on.
Okay. Anyone else? Beth?
I went to the open house down at District 917, and it was really encouraging to see all that is available, especially for our special ed students. And, some real hands-on opportunities for them, and also helping them come up with a career plan that is available to them. I was especially interested in, seeing what they were doing with the construction, because, we're going to need to replace all of those that are retiring, and the teacher was just wonderful. His name is Paul, and I asked him about Bloomington students there, and I think he said he had 9. And it was very encouraging. They say that we are sending quite a number of students down there, so it's serving our district well. And I'm wanting to learn more and go to some of their events. And, it's at Dakota County Technical College. And so once they finish the program that our students can go to, they can go into the college. And so I think it's a great asset, and I'm really glad we're a part of that and have bought into that. So, thank you.
Anyone else? I just have a couple things. I had a chance to attend the Normandale Hills Festival of Learning. What a great job the staff did putting that together again, and well attended by the parents, and got to see Mr. Bennett over there visiting it also. And I also attended the drama chorus that Director Sorum was talking about with the Nobel students. So one thing I wanted to add quickly is, the students were so great, but they had 2 weeks of an artist in residency to get that. And to be that good at it in 2 weeks, I was quite impressed to see that they'd only been working on it for 2 weeks. So that's it. So, Mr. Fujitaki.
Great, thank you. Last week, the Commissioner of Education notified our district that our application for an Innovation Zone District, to be designated an Innovation Zone District, was approved. It had qualifications, so I'll let all of you know what those qualifications are after we process that. Eric Melby and his team have also submitted an application, a Striving Readers Grant application last week. We hope to hear about that, the results of the application sometime next month. And lastly, I was at the Capitol this afternoon, and there's a lot of activity going on, a lot of education bills. As soon as we figure out which ones have traction, I'll let you know. We probably need to take some action on those bills. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business to come before the board? All right. Oh, Mr. Sorum.
There's not a school board meeting on the 26th, correct?
Correct.
You can come if you like.
I got business over here, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right, meeting's adjourned.